Thanks for doing my office hours. Um, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself and the topic, and then we can begin the discussion?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Josh Saltzman. I'm actually a resident of Los Altos Hills, but the reason I wanted to meet is because I'm running for school board in Palo Alto, and
Mhm.
just thought it would be good to introduce myself and see where there are some potential areas of overlap between your work on the city council and things that the school board can or should be doing to support students in the city of Palo Alto. I should say students and families, because I think that there's a lot to consider, especially in the area of mental health, for example, where I feel like there's opportunities for partnership between the district and the city. So I was just interested to meet with you briefly and just see what your thoughts are on that.
Well, do you have kids in the school district?
I do, yeah. I've got a rising 10th grader at Gunn, and I have a rising third grader at Nixon. I also have an eighth grader, but he's currently at Synapse, which is a private school in Menlo Park. He was at Nixon and just was having a little bit of a hard time. And then COVID hit, and that made it even harder. And so we just felt like we needed to make a change for him. So he's at Synapse for middle school, but then he'll go to Gunn after next year. And my wife is also a product of Palo Alto schools. She went to Nixon and Gunn herself. She was class of 95 at Gunn. So I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Baltimore, and she and I met in college. And so then we moved out here once she was done with her medical training. She was excited to get back out to the Bay Area, and I can't complain. I love it out here. So
So,
it's been good.
what inspired you to run for school board?
Well, I've been a full-time parent and caregiver for my 9-year-old for the last 6 years. He was diagnosed with hearing loss and then autism spectrum disorder. And so after a career as a entrepreneur in education technology, I was kind of in between things anyway when he was diagnosed. And my wife is a physician, she's a radiologist, and that's not really a career that you can just take off a couple years from. So when he was diagnosed with hearing loss, we just made the decision that one of us should. I mean, we're lucky that we have the option of doing this, but we made the decision one of us should focus on that full time, and it just made sense for that to be me.
Mhm.
And it's been, a really amazing experience. I've learned a ton about myself, about, kids, about neurodiversity, about, how to support a whole range of different types of students in learning processes. But I also have had the opportunity to get involved in the schools, and I don't know if I would have done that otherwise. If I had stuck with my career, I don't know if I would have, ended up on the PTA board. So like I was the VP of fundraising at Nixon for 2 years, then I was the treasurer for 2 years. I was the
I did that
webmaster
too.
for a number of
Actually, I
years.
was
Did you?
treasurer for my kids' school at Escondido.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, right down the road from Nixon. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
You
know a
know
little bit about
Allison?
that.
Do you know Allison Chem High? I think
No, I
she's at
haven't been involved in
Escondido
a while, but
currently.
I haven't been
Okay,
involved in a while, but yeah, I volunteered for a little bit for that too.
okay. Yeah, I like the treasurer position. It's fun. I mean, I kind of, enjoy the sort of behind the scenes work and I like spreadsheets and stuff sometimes too.
Mhm.
And yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a cool role. So I did that and over the course of being involved in the school, just got to know, teachers, got to know the principal, and at various times people suggested to me that I think about running for school board,
Mm.
but it seemed like a crazy idea, to be honest with you, for
Yeah,
a
why is
while.
that? I mean, I actually like the fact that you have kids in the school district because there are some people who, you know, don't have kids in the school district and they're on a school board. And it makes me wonder why, right? Especially if they have kids, right? And are not serving, and are, well, anyways, you know my point.
You mean
I
are
think you
like
are.
choosing to put their kids in private school, you mean, and then running for the school board anyway, or just if
Stuff
they
like that.
don't?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so in my case, I mean, it seemed crazy to me for two reasons, I guess. One is that I had never considered politics. It's just sort of like the whole notion of running for office just seemed
Mm.
um I don't know. It seemed like scary, I guess, is one aspect of it. Like very unfamiliar, scary, I guess. I had also I don't think I was unique in this way, but I had sort of a notion of what politics entailed that I don't think was really based in reality, but was kind of like based in sort of this notion of politics as being like, I don't know, like politicians not meaning what they say, like sort of different things that I think are sort of a negative stereotype of politics that um, I, not having been involved in politics before or having been involved in like broader civic life as much, I didn't really have I didn't have a basis for like understanding what the reality of it was. So
Mm,
I just kind of figured, okay, that's something that other people do. That's not really something that I would do. And then and then in addition to that, things with my son were very much in flux, like trying to figure out, what kind of support is he going to need in school? He has an IEP, he has a one-on-one aide in the classroom. He's in a general ed classroom, but he has a one-on-one aide. But it wasn't always clear, was he going to be more on the moderate to severe side? Is he more on the, mild to moderate side? Like what was that going to look like? And trying to find the right supports for him also outside the school district in terms of speech therapists and occupational therapists. And, there's just like a lot of complexity to that. So it didn't seem realistic also to take on that kind of a role because it's a very serious, like I don't want to I don't want to sign up to do something that I don't think I can actually do and like serve well. So that I guess that was the second part. So it was really those two things in combination.
mm,
Um, but now my youngest is going into third grade. Things are a little bit more stable. He's had the same aide for a number of years. Like we kind of now have like a good cadence of life in terms of, what's going on with him. And my other kids are, all getting older and they don't need as much attention or want as much attention either, like in the case of my 10th grader. Um, so recently, my wife said maybe you should think about this again. And so at that point, instead of just kind of like waving it off, I figured, well, let me at least talk to some people and try to get a handle on what it actually means to be a school board member. So I reached out to the former principal at Nixon because she was one of the folks that had encouraged me to think about it in the first place, Mary Pat O'Connell. And so I, got in touch with her. She was very enthusiastic. She recommended some former board members for me to talk to. I talked to them. They recommended some other board members for me to talk to. I talked to them, and each additional conversation I had just made it sound like number one, it's a really important role, which I kind of knew already, but I got more of a sense for that. Um, and I also got the sense that this was something I could potentially contribute to in a meaningful way, partly because of my background, but also I think because of my um, I don't know, like ethics or like communication style, like sort of just like personal traits that I have developed over time. I don't know, as a product of my I don't know, my parents, my schooling, my whatever. I'm not really sure, but I mean, it seems to me that right now, like some of the things that would really be helpful to have on the school board are um, board members who can make themselves available to the community, who can, take in a lot of different opinions, and sort of be open to other ideas, like not come in with a lot of rigid preconceived notions, be able to evaluate, different ideas, look at data, like try to find best practices that exist elsewhere, not like be super rigid about thinking that only the way that we're currently doing things is the right way necessarily, unless we really have, evidence to back that up. And so these are things that, like, my background spans both science and design.
mm.
And so that's just always the way that I've thought about things is like, try to break problems down into their pieces, try to understand, who are we trying to solve a problem for? What's the problem we're trying to solve? What's the environment that we're trying to solve it in?
Wait,
Um,
wait 1 second. 1 second.
yeah, no problem. You have to move around.
Yeah. Otherwise, it gets dark on me.
You have to do more. You have to move more, otherwise the lights go out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I've been in rooms like that before. Um, anyway, yeah, so I think that I could contribute to the board in a productive way. I don't think I'm uniquely qualified by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I'm well qualified, and I figured, I could either just sit around and hope that good people step up, or I could step up myself, and so I've decided to like jump in. And worst case scenario, this will be a really good learning process. I'll meet a lot of, interesting people and in the process, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, sorry, that's a really long-winded answer to your question. But
So, what do you want to change? Like, what's the main
well,
issue you want to
yeah,
address?
yeah, good question. So, I think that, Palo Alto School District is one of the reasons why I think a lot of people move here. It's certainly one of the things that drew, I mean, in my wife's case, drew us back to the area, but one of the reasons why we wanted to live here too was because the schools are known to be or thought of as being really good schools. And I think they are really good schools. We've had a really good experience so far. But I don't think that's something that we can be complacent about. I think that's something that we need to, continue to, to really focus, sorry, focus our attention on. Sorry, give me just a second. Sorry, it's bath time apparently for for the 9-year-old.
Sure.
Anyway, so I mean, I think that the schools are they seem to be still in good shape, but I think there are some areas where maybe we have gotten where we've let some good intentions maybe cause some unintended consequences. So like one area where I think that may be the case is around like academic opportunities for students that are prepared for like more advanced curriculum. So where I think maybe this has happened a little bit is it seems like there's a narrative that's emerged that we can only do sort of one thing at a time. And what I mean by that is we really want to make sure that we're serving all students. That's really important. It's a public school system, and so it's absolutely critical that we serve all students and try to serve them very well. And I think it's also important that we try to reduce the sort of variance between students that are maybe struggling, that don't have all of the advantages that some of our other students have. But I'm worried a little bit that in the interest of trying to reduce that variance, we're we're sort of limiting opportunities for students that are maybe like I don't know what the right word is to describe this because I don't want to use a word that like implies a value judgment because I don't think that's appropriate. But students that are sort of more advanced in terms of the subject matter. It could be math, could be English, could be whatever. I'm a little concerned that there are some situations where we're sort of lowering the ceiling as opposed to raising the floor. And what I would really like to see us do is raise the floor without lowering the ceiling. So that's one thing that I think we could potentially be doing a better job of. Another area that I feel the district has I don't know, like is maybe caused itself some self-inflicted wounds in a sense is in terms of communication with the community. So I think there are a couple different areas where the district has been maybe a little bit opaque in terms of the process that it's undertaken. So one would be with respect to the ethnic studies curriculum that's currently being developed, I guess would be the best word for it. Um, so there seem to be a large number of parents that are concerned about the process that the district has gone through in terms of the way that it's trying to implement the state requirement around the ethnic studies curriculum. And as far as I can tell, the response by the district has been a little bit standoffish or I would say they have not seemed welcoming of input from the community. And they've been seemingly like resistant to providing access to the sort of like draft version of the curriculum that they're working on, which I don't know if there are reasons for this, but if so, I'm not sure that they've been articulated. And in the process, I think what's happened is that it's caused like unnecessary conflict with with a bunch of concerned members of the community. And then I think I've sort of seen that pattern emerge in a couple different ways. And so I think this may be a situation where it's just like a vacuum is being created, like an information vacuum, and that vacuum is being filled by people's anxiety about some of these topics. And I'm hopeful that the anxiety is like unnecessary, that basically everything is, that there isn't really cause for concern, but um, I think it's problematic that the communication just doesn't seem to be flowing freely. And so I would really like to see that. I'd like to see that changed. I also am concerned that teacher morale is seemingly at the lowest point that it's been in a long time. And from talking to teachers and meeting with the leaders of the teachers union, who endorsed me, incidentally, I should say, they they are concerned that they're not being I guess that they're not being included in decision-making processes, or they're not being listened to. And, certainly sometimes, there are certainly situations where people feel that they aren't being listened to because a decision's made that just doesn't align with their preference. Uh, so, there may be some of that, but I don't think my sense is that that's not the full extent of it. I think that they just feel like they're not being valued, their opinions are not being valued, their input's not being valued. And again, it might be that their input is being valued and it's just sort of like a communication problem. Um, so I don't know, but it just seems to me that if we want to make progress on things like student mental health, which I think is a really important area for us to focus on, um, that's going to be very hard if we don't reestablish trust and like transparency and like effective channels of communication between the different sort of constituents within this ecosystem. We've got district administration, we've got school sites, we've got teachers, we've got parents, we've got students, and it just concerns me that there's like a narrative that's built up that it's sort of like the teachers versus the district. It's the parents versus the district. But really, we're all trying to do what's best for the students at the end of the day. And so I feel like there's work that could be done and that potentially the board can participate in some of this work by making itself available and sort of being open to people's input and having conversations with folks to try to like repair some of these relationships.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I think we're about running out of time, so it might be a good time for us to just conclude the
Sure. I
conversation.
totally understand. Yeah, I totally get it. I'm sorry. I sometimes tend to go on. So anyway, I really appreciate your time. And Mr. Tanaka, thank you so much for meeting with me. And if you have some time to get together, and chat about some of these things in the future, I would welcome the opportunity to do that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just say that yeah, thanks for introducing yourself and some of the things that you care about. I just one of them that you mentioned resonates with me at least, which is um, I guess I'm less interested in about minimizing the variance and much more interested in making sure that every student has the best education possible and becomes the best version of themselves.
Yes,
Versus, everyone's at the same level because you could do
right,
that by basically everyone having everyone mediocre, right? But
right,
that's not, I don't
exactly.
think that's what we want. I think we want everyone to be the best possible, and that means a lot of variance, and I think we should be okay with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
think
think that's
that's
a great
great.
point.
Yeah. And I for one, I know our family moved here because we wanted great schools, and so I think to me that's top priority is making sure that the schools are top notch, that people get a great education, that's practical, that helps them, in life going forward. So I don't know much about the ethnic study things, but I don't know. I just, it sounds like there's some controversy there, but I don't know what it is. So, but
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
I
And
can
then
point you towards some resources on that. I'm not trying, I mean, I don't want to overstate the importance of that in terms of like my candidacy. I just think that it's more like a symptom of what I see as like a broader pattern, I guess. It's just sort of an example of something where I feel like there has to be some sort of issue tying some of these things together. But anyway, sorry, I know you have to go. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. And then the teacher morale issue. Um, I don't know enough about that to comment, but of course we want people happy, but I think we also want motivated people. And I
yes,
I think, I mean, just like in every profession, there's some professions where people are extremely high performers, and sometimes they're not, right? And I think, I could just tell you from my own life, having some just amazing teachers. I think, the world-class amazing teachers should get rewarded a lot more. And so I think that's something I like to see is much more like variable or bonus pay for amazing teachers. Because I think and even talking to my kids, they tell me about some teachers are just heads and shoulders above any other teachers they've had. And those teachers are like I'm in a kind of software space. And we talk about this idea of a 10x engineer, or these days
yeah,
with AI, 100x engineers. And they
yep.
literally do exist. I mean, no joke. I mean, they're people who are 10x, 100x more productive. And but I think the same could be said for teachers. I think some teachers are just way better. And I think those are like rock stars and they should be treated as such. But I realize, that may not be everyone's opinion, but I think we should reward people who are high performers. I think meritocracy is the way to roll. So,
Hmm.
but anyways, and I'm not as steeped in the educational stuff as you are. So, but thank you for sharing and thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good day.